And now, straight from the horse's mouth, our Neil Young News Report.
Smell the horse on this one.
With this week's update from thrasherswheat.org, here's Thrasher.
Hey, Thrasher here with this week's Neil Young News, and we have lots and lots of very fresh wheat to report this week. It's been an exciting week. Started off with Neil Young in Washington, D.C., up on Capitol Hill at a press conference, the National Farmers Union press conference. And in that press conference that Neil held, along with a few senators and other representatives from the Farmers Union, Neil Young made some big headlines. He had a couple of quotes in his comments that got picked up, and we'll just go ahead and play those for you right now.
We just drove here. Many miles, thousands of miles, and halfway here, we went up through South Dakota, we went through farm country, we went up through Montana, through the mountains, and then into the Great Plains of Montana, and across the border into Alberta. And when we got to Alberta, we headed north, and we kept going north and north for a long time until we got to Fort McMurray, Alberta, where all of the oil comes from. Much of the oil that we're using here, which they call ethical oil because it's not from some Saudi Arabia or some country that may be at war with us. The fact is, Fort McMurray looks like Hiroshima. Fort McMurray is a wasteland. The Indians up there and the native peoples are dying. The fuels all over, the fumes everywhere. You can smell it when you get to town. The closest place to Fort McMurray that is doing the tar sands work is 25 or 30 miles out of town, and you can taste it when you get to Fort McMurray. People are sick. People are dying of cancer because of this. All of the First Nations peoples up there are threatened by this. Their food supply is wasted. Their treaties are no good. They have the right to live on the land like they always did, but there's no land left that they can live on. All the animals are dying. This is truly a disaster, and America is supporting this. It's very unfortunate that this is where we get the majority of our fuel from. On the other hand, if you look at ethanol and ethanol production in the United States, and if ethanol was like a different country, and all the ethanol came from a different country that we make here, we would be the number 2 supplier of energy, of fuel to the United States of America, the ethanol industry.
So there you have it. At the press conference, Neil's comments about comparing the town in Alberta, Fort McMurray, to Hiroshima really went viral as far as these things go. And we were up there, and it was wasn't a big scene at the time. But the comment was picked up pretty much across Alberta, and if you were on the environmental side, it was praised what Neil Young had to say about the tar sands. And if you were certainly up there in the Fort McMurray area, the comments did not sit well. There was a lot of reaction to it that we covered over on the blog, and even went so far as a local radio station up in Fort McMurray ended up banning Neil Young's music. So pretty extreme reaction on both sides of this, and there certainly probably be more to be heard on all this. Neil was filming a documentary up in Canada when he made those observations. So hopefully we'll see that someday. He was traveling out there with Linkvolt. Linkvolt was supposed to be at the press conference, but Linkvolt was a no-show. So Linkvolt was in the neighborhood, but apparently couldn't quite get to the press conference. So, moving along here, the other big news that came out this week on the Neil Young front was actually at a Peggy Young concert. So Peggy Young has been out touring with her band, The Survivors, and they were up in Boston, Massachusetts, or a suburb thereof, Somerville. And during the set, Neil Young performed a new song. We have, we thought the title of this was Further Down the Road, but it's always good to check Sugar Mountain, see what they're calling it, and we'll check that. Okay, so Sugar Mountain is calling this Drive My Car. So either way, it's a pretty rockin' little song, and you might want to check that out. We got a YouTube of that posted on the blog, so check that out. So otherwise, we'll just wrap up. Next weekend is Farm Aid, and so that's always a big time, and probably have some news coming out of that, of course, and maybe leading up into it. So everybody out there who's going to Farm Aid, have yourself a good time and keep on rocking in the free world.